Ever noticed how she disappears, then suddenly comes back like nothing happened? That's not confusion, that's a pattern. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep losing control of the situation. What you have to realize first is that this behavior is not random, and it's definitely not something that's just happening to you by accident. Most men take it personally when a woman pulls away. They start thinking they said something wrong, did something wrong, or somehow messed everything up. But the truth is, what you're seeing is a natural cycle of attraction that rises and falls depending on how she feels in the moment. When her interest is high, she leans in, she texts more, she shows up with energy. But when that feeling drops, even slightly, she pulls back to create space for herself. And that's where most men fail because they misinterpret that space as rejection instead of understanding it as part of the process. You have to start looking at her actions over time, not just in a single moment. One day she's warm, the next day she's distant, then suddenly she reappears acting like everything is normal again. If you react to each of these shifts emotionally, you become unstable in her eyes, and instability kills attraction faster than anything else. But when you understand that this push and pull dynamic is driven by her changing emotions, you stop taking it personally. You stop overthinking every message, every delay, every bit of silence. Instead, you stay grounded because you know what's really going on beneath the surface. This pattern also tells you something important. If she keeps coming back, the attraction never fully disappeared, it just faded temporarily. And attraction, when handled correctly, can be rebuilt stronger than before, but only if you don't panic when she pulls away. The moment you chase, the moment you try to force connection, you interrupt the natural cycle that was actually working in your favor. Her coming back is proof that something about you is still pulling her in, but your reaction to her pulling away will determine whether that attraction grows or dies completely. So instead of reacting, you start observing, you notice the rhythm, you understand that distance doesn't mean the end. It often means she's processing her feelings. And when she comes back, it's not by accident because the space you allowed gave her the chance to feel that pull again. This is where your power begins, not in controlling her behavior, but in understanding it better than she even realizes herself. Once you truly see the pattern for what it is, you stop chasing moments and start mastering the game. The moment she starts pulling away, most men feel this sudden urge to do something about it. They start texting more, calling more, trying to fix what they think is going wrong. In their mind, effort equals results. So they believe if they just try harder, show more interest, or prove themselves more, she'll come back faster and stronger. But what actually happens is the complete opposite. The more you chase, the more distance she creates, and the more confused and frustrated you become. Attraction doesn't grow through pressure, it grows through space. When you over pursue, you remove the very thing that made her interested in the beginning, the challenge, the curiosity, the feeling that she had to come toward you. Instead, you flip the dynamic. Now you're the one chasing and she's the one pulling away even more, not because she's trying to hurt you, but because your behavior is lowering her attraction without you even realizing it. Think about it like this: when someone feels too easy to get, too available, too predictable, the excitement fades. There's no mystery left, no emotional buildup, no anticipation. And anticipation is a huge part of attraction. When you're always there, always ready, always reaching out. She doesn't get the chance to wonder about you, to miss you, or to feel that pull that makes her come back on her own. Most men make the mistake of trying to close the distance immediately. She takes a step back and they take three steps forward, but that only pushes her further away. What actually works is counterintuitive. When she pulls back, you also lean back, not out of anger, not to play games, but because you understand that chasing her in that moment will only make things worse. You give her the space she's already asking for through her actions, and in doing so, you allow her feelings to breathe and rebuild. This is where discipline comes in. It's not easy to hold back when your emotions are telling you to act. You'll feel the urge to reach out, to check in, to make sure everything is okay. But strength in this situation is shown through restraint. The man who can stay centered, who doesn't panic, who doesn't overreact, is the one who maintains his value in her eyes. And here's the part most people overlook: when you stop over pursuing, you give her the opportunity to invest. You give her the chance to reach out, to wonder why you're not chasing, to feel that shift in the dynamic. That's when she starts coming back, not because you forced it, But because she felt it on her own, the less you chase, the more space you create for attraction to return naturally. What most people don't understand is that attraction isn't something that grows from constant contact. It actually needs space to develop and rebuild. When she starts pulling away, it often has less to do with you doing something wrong and more to do with her internal emotional rhythm. People, especially in the early stages of dating, move closer when they feel good and pull back when they need to process those feelings. If you interrupt that process by constantly trying to stay connected, you don't give those emotions the room they need to grow. Think about how anticipation works when you're not in constant communication. When there's a little bit of distance, your mind naturally starts to fill in the gaps. You begin to wonder, to think, to feel curiosity. That's where attraction quietly builds in the background. But when everything is always available, when there's no pause, no silence, no breathing room, that emotional buildup never happens. It becomes predictable, and predictability slowly drains the excitement out of the connection. When she creates space, consciously or unconsciously, she's allowing herself to reset emotionally. She's stepping back to evaluate how she feels about you without outside pressure. If during that time you flutter with messages, questions, or attempts to pull her back in, you actually make it harder for her to reconnect with those feelings. Instead of missing you, she starts associating you with pressure. Instead of feeling drawn back, she feels the need to maintain even more distance. This is why understanding space is so powerful. It's not about ignoring her or pretending you don't care. It's about respecting the natural flow of attraction. When she pulls back, you don't chase, you don't try to fix anything. You simply allow the distance to exist. And in that space, something important happens. She starts to feel your absence. She starts to remember the moments she enjoyed with you. She begins to reconnect with the emotional experience, not because you pushed her to, but because she arrived there on her own. There's also a level of confidence that comes with giving space. It shows that you're not dependent on constant validation. It shows that you trust the connection enough to not force it. That kind of energy is rare and it stands out. Most people react impulsively, trying to hold on tighter the moment they feel distance. But the one who stays relaxed, who allows things to unfold naturally, becomes the one who feels secure and grounded. Over time, this creates a different dynamic. Instead of you trying to keep her interest alive, she begins to invest more because she feels that natural pull. She comes back not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. And that desire is always stronger when it has space to grow. When you understand that attraction needs room to breathe, you stop suffocating it and start letting it work in your favor. The real difference between the man who keeps her attention and the one who loses it has very little to do with looks, money, or even words. It comes down to emotional control. When she pulls away, the situation itself isn't what creates the problem, it's how you react to it. Most men in that moment let their emotions take over. They feel uncertainty, and that uncertainty turns into anxiety. Then that anxiety turns into actions. Texting too much, asking where things stand, trying to lock things down, or even showing frustration. And all of that slowly erodes the attraction that was already there. When you lose control of your emotions, you start behaving in a way that signals insecurity. And insecurity is something people can feel even if you don't say it directly. It shows in your timing, your tone, your need for reassurance. Instead of being the calm, grounded presence she was initially drawn to, you become reactive. And the moment you become reactive, you hand over your power because now your mood depends on her behavior. But the man who understands this dynamic operates differently. When she pulls back, he doesn't panic. He doesn't assume the worst. He doesn't feel the need to immediately fix something that isn't broken. He stays centered in himself. He continues his routine, his work, his goals, his life, not as a tactic, but because his sense of stability doesn't depend on someone else's temporary change in behavior. This kind of emotional control creates a completely different perception. When you remain calm and unaffected, it communicates strength without you having to say a single word. It shows that you're not easily shaken, that you have options, that your life is already full and meaningful. And that's attractive on a deep level because it creates a sense of certainty and safety around you. She may not consciously think about it, but she feels it. There's also a level of respect that comes with this. People respect those who respect themselves. When you don't overreact, when you don't chase, when you don't let your emotions push you into weak decisions, you naturally set a standard for how you expect to be treated. And that standard influences how she behaves around you over time. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold or distant, it means you become steady. You respond when appropriate, you engage when things are good, but you don't let temporary distance throw you off balance. You understand that her emotions may fluctuate, but yours don't have to, and that consistency becomes your advantage. The truth is, you can't control when someone pulls away or when they come back, but you can always control how you show up in those moments. And the way you show up is what ultimately determines whether attraction grows stronger or fades away. When you master your emotions, you stop reacting to the situation and start leading it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in this situation is rewarding behavior that doesn't deserve it. Every time she disappears, goes cold, or pulls away without explanation, and then comes back to you, if you respond with instant excitement, full attention, and open availability, you're unknowingly teaching her that there are no consequences to inconsistency. You're showing her that no matter how she behaves, she can always come back and pick up exactly where she left off without earning that place in your life again. At first, this might feel natural. You're happy she's back. You don't want to lose momentum, and you think being warm and welcoming will strengthen the connection. But what actually happens is you lower your own value in the process, because value is not just about how much you give, it's about what you tolerate. And when you tolerate inconsistency without any shift in your behavior, you communicate that your time, your attention, and your presence are always available, regardless of how she treats you. This doesn't mean you become cold, bitter, or start playing games. It means you develop standards. When she comes back, you're still respectful, still composed, but you're not overly eager. You don't drop everything for her. You don't immediately give her the same level of attention she had before she left. Instead, you allow her to re earn that space naturally through consistent effort and presence. What this does is subtly shift the dynamic. Now, instead of you constantly investing and hoping she stays, she begins to invest to maintain your attention. She starts to feel that your time is valuable, that your attention is not automatic, and that if she wants to be part of your life, she has to show up in a way that aligns with that. Consistency is attractive, and when you reward inconsistency, you create instability in the connection. But when you hold your standard, when you don't immediately validate every return, you encourage better behavior over time. She begins to understand, even without you saying it directly, that disappearing and coming back won't get the same reaction anymore. And people naturally adjust their behavior based on what gets rewarded. There's also a deeper level of self respect in this. You're no longer operating from a place of fear of losing her. You're operating from a place of knowing your worth. And when you truly value yourself, you don't give unlimited access to someone who shows limited consistency. You make space for people who show up with the same energy and intention that you bring. Over time, this creates a healthier dynamic. Either she rises to meet your standard and becomes more consistent, or she fades out because she can't meet it. And either outcome works in your favor, because you're no longer settling for emotional ups and downs that drain you. When you stop rewarding inconsistency, you start attracting consistency. The moment you stop making her behavior the center of your emotional world, everything changes. Most men don't realize how much power they give away by constantly monitoring what she's doing, when she replies, or why she pulled back. Their mood rises and falls based on her attention. If she texts, they feel good. If she disappears, they feel anxious. And when your emotional stability depends on someone else's actions, you're no longer in control of your own life. The strongest shift you can make is learning to redirect that focus back to yourself. Instead of analyzing her mood swings, you start investing that energy into your own direction, your work, your goals, your health, your skills, your purpose. These are things that actually build your identity. When your life is full and moving forward, her behavior becomes just a small part of your day, not the defining factor of it. What happens naturally in this process is interesting. When you stop reacting to her every move, you create distance from emotional dependency. You're no longer waiting for validation or chasing clarity. You're simply living. And that energy shift is powerful because people can feel when you are no longer attached in a needy way. You become more grounded, more stable, more focused, and that kind of presence naturally stands out. Ironically, this is often the point where she becomes more interested again, not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer available in the same emotional way. When she sees that your world doesn't revolve around her anymore, it creates curiosity. It makes her wonder where your attention has gone. It makes her feel the absence of something she took for granted. But the key is you didn't do this to get a reaction from her. You did it because your life required that focus anyway. This is where real strength shows. Not in controlling the situation, not in forcing communication, but in being so engaged in your own direction that our inconsistency no longer disrupts your flow. You respond when it makes sense. You engage when it feels right, but you don't pause your life waiting for her next move. You keep moving forward regardless. And when your life becomes the priority, your emotional state stabilizes. You're no longer overthinking every message or silence. You're no longer trying to decode behavior that may not even need decoding. You simply observe, adjust, and continue forward. That calm detachment is not indifference, it's self respect. Over time, this shift changes everything about the dynamic. Instead of her controlling your emotional world, you become someone who is centered, focused, and direction driven. And that is the version of you that naturally attracts more consistency, more respect, and more genuine interest. When your life becomes the focus, her coming and going loses control over your peace of mind.